and welcome to SoulWhat, a Soultopia podcast with our producer, Matt Stoker. I'm your co-host, Michelle Welch.
And I'm your co-host, Roger Welch. So what's up today, Michelle?
So today we're really excited to have a special guest with us. We have Matthew McConaughey. He's an award-winning actor, an Academy Award-winning actor, and he's a married man, a father of 3 children, and a loyal son and brother. He considers himself a storyteller by occupation, believes it's okay to have a beer on the way to the temple, feels better with a day's sweat on him, and is an aspiring orchestral conductor. In 2009, Matthew and his wife Camilla founded the Just Keep Livin' Foundation, which keeps at-risk high school children, students, make healthier mind, body, and spirit choices. In 2019, McConaughey became professor of practice at the University of Texas at Austin, as well as Minister of Culture, MOC, for the University of Texas and the City of Austin. McConaughey is also the brand ambassador for Lincoln Motor Company and owner of the Major League Soccer club, Austin FC, and co-creator of his favorite bourbon on the planet, Wild Turkey Long Branch. Hello, Matthew. How are you doing?
That all is mostly absolutely true.
And that's the short version. You've done so much. Thank you for being on our show. I am so excited to have you. Well, you were saying before you came on that your air conditioner went out, and here you are. And you said in here you like it better with a day's sweat on you, right? So
Yes.
That's a green light, right? Just like your book.
If I start shining and dripping in this thing, it means I'm just getting better as more I sweat. So yeah, I'll go with it.
So one of the reasons I wanted you to be on the show, besides the fact that you're just, Matthew McConaughey, is really this book, Greenlights, besides being a bestseller. And let me tell you guys, if you try to get the book, which everybody should, and I mean that, everywhere you go, it's like, okay, well, we've reordered that 5 times, but I think we have 1 left. And the Audible, too, is a bestseller. But I really asked you on the show, and you were gracious enough to give us this green light, is because I really was drawn to this mantra. I'll call it a mantra. The persist, pivot, or concede. The red, yellow, green lights are live. Could you talk a little bit about that for us?
Yeah, it seems to be the 3 options when facing any circumstance we have in life, whether it's success or whether it's a crisis or a problem. We can get I know I've got a lot of green lights in my life. I think we all do. Green lights being the things that we like, the things that affirm our way, tell us to keep going. Yes, attaboy, attagirl, way to be the one, freedom, more, please. We love green lights because they don't impede our movement forward. They affirm us. And a lot of times we can get them by persistence. I know I've gotten them by out enduring people, by getting up and being resilient and dusting myself off and trying again. But there's also, in the art of catching green lights, I believe, a time where you have to go, whoa, this is about persistence. This challenge that I'm facing, that I keep banging my head against the proverbial wall against, maybe I need to back up and pivot. And as you call it, course correct, reapproach the situation from a different angle, learn how to dance around the problem rather than banging your head on it. That seems to be the art, is when do we persist and out endure? Because if we choose to pivot too quickly, that means we might be quitters. You might have stopped too early to actually try and get what you want. But if we try over and over and over again to no avail to get what we want, well, that's the definition of insanity, trying to get a different outcome by approaching it the exact same way every single time. So that seems to be the art. When do you persist and when do you pivot? And then finally, when do you raise the white flag and say, hey, I'm going to fight another day. I'm going to fight another battle. I'm going to leave that one. I tried. I'll chalk that one up. I'm moving on to something else.
Yeah. When was the time you felt like you did raise the white flag? What's the time that you thought, I need to concede? And then you saw later that was a green light for you.
Exactly. Because all 3 of those, even the concession is a way to get your green light. And one of the big ones for me, I would say, was about 12 years ago when I was doing nothing but really romantic comedies and action adventures, doing well at them. I was the go-to rom-com guy. But I had been pigeonholed into being that guy so much that the dramatic work that I wanted to do was not available to me. I wasn't even in consideration, even though I wanted to do those other roles and was offering to take a tenfold pay cut. They were like, nope, not Matthew McConaughey. You're the rom-com guy. Stay in your lane. Well, because I couldn't do what I wanted to do, which were those dramatic roles, I sort of conceded and said, well, you know what? I'm not going to do what I've been doing. So I stepped away from Hollywood and didn't know how long I was going to go with that work. And I went almost 2 years with no work. And in that 2 years of that sabbatical, or that raising the white flag, which was really an offensive move, it turned out to be an offensive move. Even though I wasn't working, I was gone long enough and out, not in a romantic comedy in front of you in the theater or in a romantic comedy in your living room. You were not seeing me shirtless on the beach. It was like, well, where'd McConaughey go? I don't know what he's doing. And after 20 months of being away and not doing what I had been doing, all of a sudden that unbranding phase, finding that anonymity, I became a new, novel, good idea for some of the dramatic fare that I was wanting to do. And I wouldn't have been that if I wouldn't have stepped away and said no to what I had been doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. So in your book, you also talk about going to New Orleans and visiting one of the voodoo shops.
Yeah.
And you were talking about, and that's very similar to the shop we have, the two here in Dallas, but you were talking about like the section with the money, that dealt with money, we're bringing money in, is always empty. We found the same thing here, that sells a lot of product, but in your life, you've had a lot of success, a lot of things like that, how do you define that success for yourself and for others?
Great question. Look, I'm all for money. In a lot of ways, it does make the world go around. We need it. It's the currency to get things we want, to work, to have lives that are hopefully more healthy for us. So I'm all for money. I'm all for fame. I happen to be rich and famous. But I think America, more than anywhere else, tells us as consumers in our society that, oh, this is what you need. You need fame and money to be a success. You need fame and money to have respect. You need fame and money to get a seat at the table that you want to sit at. And that's all right, but not at the expense of our soul's account, not at the expense of our character's account. So if I can make a choice that can, one, fill my bank account, but also fill my soul's account, those two don't have to be a contradiction. Those two can happen at the same time. It can be harder. It can take some more patience. It can take doing something like I did, taking a couple years off, even though I was in a privileged position to do that because I had made money and had been able to save it. Not everyone was in that position. I understand that. But there are certain sacrifices that we can make that will pay off. There are certain sacrifices we can sometimes make today that will pay off tomorrow. That will be a choice that can fill both accounts, our soul and our bank account.
Right. And the thing is yeah, that part of it was, we're not totally a voodoo store. We would consider ourselves a spiritual store. Everyone's welcome. Everyone's welcome in our store, but we do notice that people do gravitate to that. So I was really drawn to that. We both were in our book. And it was interesting as Roger and I were reading your book, he listened to Audible and read. I read first because I like to read first and then listen to Audible. And we seemed to highlight and note the same things, and that really jumped out at us. I really liked where you talked about your launchpad lines and for movies. And I feel like that's because it ties into your life too. So I'd like you to talk a little bit about your launchpad lines for a couple of your movies. And then I'd like to know what if Greenlights, this book, was made into a film, which I wish it would be, what would be the launchpad line for the character Matthew McConaughey?
Okay. Let me think about it. I haven't been asked that question. That's a good question. A launchpad line is something that I'll call, it shows up in scripts. Doesn't show up in every script, but it showed up, for instance, the two most distinguished ones would be in Dazed Confused and, say, Wolf of Wall Street. Now, in Dazed Confused, that character of Wooderson that I played, that I became a central character to the entire movie, originally only had 3 lines. But one of those lines was what I'll call a launchpad line. A line that if you look at and you say, oh, if my character believes this, there's an encyclopedia on that character. And that line was Wooderson saying, no, man, that's what I love about those high school girls, man. I get older, they stay the same age. Yes, they do. Well, that line, I looked at it and I was like, laughed. And I was like, who is this guy? If that person, this character Wooderson, believes that, if he's not saying that line like as an attitude or a joke, if that's like his credo, if that's his ethos, like he thinks he's got it figured out, well, that tells me so much about who this man is. I now am open to improvise and riff, because anybody who works out of life with that POV, they're a real character.
Yeah.
Go to Wolf of Wall Street. That scene in Wolf of Wall Street, I think it was 7 minutes long, or what was originally scripted was about 3 minutes long. But there was a line in it that I looked at and I was like, he said, what? And it's when Leonardo's characters ask me, like, so what's the secret to being a successful stockbroker? And my character said, the secret to being a successful stockbroker is cocaine and hookers. And I remember going, what? And I was like, what if that guy really believes that? If he's not just saying that to be cute or make a joke, what if he really believes that? Well, that opens up a whole encyclopedia for who the guy is or who the character is, which allows me to then write more and riff more and improvise more in a scene, and allowed me to turn a 3-line role that was Wooderson in Days Confused into 3 weeks of working, and turn 3 pages in Wolf of Wall Street with Mark Hanna, the character, into 7 pages, because those lines informed me so much about the character. Now, if Greenlights was going to be a movie, Launchpad line, oh, here we go. Chasing Yet. Yeah, Chasing Yet.
Okay.
We don't ever get there. I mean, part of the Greenlights is we don't ever arrive at our destination. We never have that ta-da moment of like, oh, I figured it out. We have moments where we cross the truth and it lands on us and we go, I'm evolving as a human now. Now I can take this knowledge and this wisdom into life, and hopefully it will improve my life and my relationship with my friends, my career, my future, my past, myself. But every time we get there and we think, oh, I've reached the goal, now I got it, we immediately all learn, oh, no, we don't have it. We just worked up another rung on the ladder. And the ladder, I believe, will go on until we leave this life. And then we see how high or how far did we get, but we sure as hell never got to the top.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was wondering, because I was thinking you evolve through the whole book, and it's changing, and it's moving, it's fluid, and you're evolving. And so I love that. I was wondering.
Well, you see, in the book, I calibrate, I recalibrate, I learn lessons, I forget I learned them. I think I have it down, then I step in shit. I mean, it's a constant dance, and hopefully, our lives can have a bit of ascension, that we can evolve a little bit, that it's not just flat, that we can improve and be closer to our truer selves and better selves with time, or hell, what the hell's evolution for, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So also one of the things that when you were in high school, you drove the old Dodge truck. You see the red sports car, go trade the red sports car. You were cool. I mean, this is kind of you in a nutshell. You were cool as it can be till you started trying to be cool. And then it went downhill from there, and you had to go flip it back.
Downhill hard.
So did that come from you, just natural for you to be kind of just laid back, cool, chill about everything? Was it inborn from your parents? Where do you think that came from?
Well, we were always, look, who are the coolest people in the world? The people who are most themselves. Mm-hmm. Like, I always say this, give me the nerd, just don't give me the dork. I can trust the nerd. They know they're a nerd. They're a nerd. The dork is the one who tries to be what he thinks everybody else wants them to be in any given situation. So you can't really trust them because they're neither coming or going. They're trying to be everything to everybody, which means you're nothing to anybody. I always say this, give me the asshole over the dork. At least I know where the asshole stands. You know what I mean? I can trust that one. I can rely on their consistent behavior. The dork, I don't know what he's going to do. So we were always pushed to try and be ourselves. My mom would say this to us. She was like, look, you want to be an original, be more you. There's only one of you. And I think that works for across the board for everybody. If we can remind ourselves that if we can be more of ourselves, then we're more of an original. And so as far as the laid back side that you bring up, I mean, some people tell me I'm quite intense, but I mean, I tell you what, I was raised on a logic of, hey, quit griping about not having any shoes because I'm going to introduce you to the boy with no feet. So there are certain things that some people may see as a crisis, some people may see as a drama in life that I'm like, I'm not going to let my blood pressure go up on that, because maybe that crisis doesn't even deserve me to give it credit. Mm-hmm. So sometimes when people are like, oh my God, and creating a certain false drama, I'm trying to look at it and go, well, wait a minute, maybe I need to conserve energy. Look at this year of COVID. Yep. We've had a year crisis here. If we were upset every single day, like, oh my God, I'm pulling my hair out of my head, we're going to be much more exhausted than if I'm going, all right, we may be in this for the long haul. How do I conserve energy, and how do I try to make choices to be constructive and moving forward to get out of this the best way possible? Mm-hmm. It's so I don't think, I think somehow I was given an ability and worked on an ability to conserve, maybe it's conserving energy and saying, hey, I'm going to be cool I'm going to be as relaxed as I can until it's time. Because when I need to be on the front line, I think I'm pretty good at saying, well, let's get it on when I need to. I just don't like to do it too early.
Well, I think that's the same as you guys are both Scorpios, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Our birthdays one day apart. A couple of years, but one day.
One day apart. You guys are born, and Roger's, he's the same thing. I'm like, how do you have this confidence, Roger? It's just like, and he's just himself.
I told her it's all the Scorpio.
And no, but he also likes to dance, and you're that guy too, because there were those guys in Longview, I will tell you, that they just wouldn't dance. They'd stand there, they'd laying there, they're too cool, to dance. And he'll dance too.
Well, smoking a cigarette, being cool. Yeah.
But you would dance, right? You talked about that. And also, you like wrestling. So I have to tell you, so Roger, what was your wrestling? Who was your favorite?
I like Ric Flair.
Ric Flair?
Yeah, Ric Flair. Woo,
Oh, yeah. Woo! I was a Hacksaw Jim Duggan guy.
Oh, yeah.
I also followed the Von Erichs, and I got kicked out of Hirsch Coliseum for pelting Skandar Akbar with tomatoes and spitting a loop from King Kong Bundy.
Awesome.
Well, I was raised on the Von Erichs, and my grandparents. It was all the Von Erichs and the Iron Claw. And my brother would always come, and he'd put the iron claw on me, and I'd be running, then I'd put the iron claw on him. So that was mine. Your move, you said there was Boston. What was
Boston Claw?
Boston Crab.
Boston Crab. Yeah.
So, Matt, did you have a move?
Did I have a move? No, but I do. I love the art form of wrestling. It's so I don't know. It's just it's like Greek theater. I think it's so cool, and I love that it's survived for so long.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, Ric Flair was. I'll watch a video of Ric Flair every single day just to get me pumped up. I love it.
Roger was showing me last night. He's, woo. So, I was just thinking that at the time, tying in the pivoting. Roger, you were wanting to talk about this, about the law school.
Yeah,
that interested you a lot.
Well, yeah, because I heard this years ago before the book actually came out, because when you were going to UT and you were going pre-law and going to law school and all, and you decided you wanted to go into acting. And you actually had to work up that, call your dad to tell him that you had changed your mind and everything there. And the book tells you about the story. I thought it was cool, though. You were so worried about it, but he's like, okay, just don't.
How did he handle that?
Well, so I had always been expected to be a lawyer ever since I was like 12. It was like, oh, you're going to be the lawyer, because I was a good debater. I could handle good arguments. I loved to stand up on the chair and make my case. And then the joke in the family was, well, doggone it, you're going to be the lawyer. You're going to represent the family business and go on. So I was good with that. I think I would have been a decent lawyer. Mm-hmm. So I'm headed towards law school, but I'm not sleeping well with the idea of graduating college, going to law school for 3 years after that, then maybe just being able to put my imprint on society when in my 30s. I said, I don't really want to spend all my 20s getting educated on something. And I'd been writing in my diaries and writing short stories and shared them with a buddy of mine who was in film school at NYU. And he said they were pretty good. And he also challenged me to, hey, what do you think about getting in front of the camera? You know, and I, at that time, couldn't even admit that that was something I might have wanted to do, even though I do now think I did want to do it. But now it's time to call Dad and tell him. Ask him, but tell him. And I'll get to why that, I think that's an important point right there. And so I picked the right time, and I said 7:30 Tuesday night. He'll be home from work. He'll have had dinner. He's having a beer on the couch with Mom. He'll be in a good mood. He'll be open to this new idea of me going to film school instead of law school, or at least will be my best chance of him saying, okay. So I call him. I said, hey, Pop. He goes, what's going on, monkey man? And I said, oh, not much. I said, listen, I've been doing some thinking, and I don't want to go to law school anymore. I want to go to film school. And my sweat's starting to beat up on the back of my neck, thinking he's going to go, you want to what? Like, that's a Saturday hobby. That's not a job. That's not a career pursuit, et cetera, et cetera. But that isn't what he said. He goes, you sure that's what you want to do, son? I said, yes, sir. And then as I waited for his response, I heard three of the coolest words I could have ever heard. He said, don't half-ass it. And in saying that to me, he not only gave me his approval, he gave me more than privilege. He gave me freedom. He gave me the responsibility, the accountability. He gave me a kick in the ass in the backside and says, go get it if you're going to go do it. And, you know, at that time is exactly what I wanted to hear. But here's what I've understood about that moment. And I think, are y'all parents?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
5.
So, okay, we raise our children to sort of in a structure, right? Follow these rules. These are the family rules. These are what we expect you. Stay within the lines that we give you guidelines, right? And if our kids stay in that line, they'll probably succeed. They're going to go out and they're at least going to not harm themselves, not have as good of a chance to harm themselves, and they'll probably succeed. But what do we really hope for? And this is what my dad showed me when he said, don't half-ass it. When I said, I want to go to film school instead of law school, and he said, you sure that's what you want to do? And I immediately, without a pause, said, yes, sir. And the tone of my voice, he heard in my voice that I really wasn't asking him permission. He heard in my voice that I had made up my mind as a young man, as his son, saying, I'm going to go my own way. I'm breaking out of the construct that you've made for us. I'm going my own way. And I believe in that phone call, he swelled with pride going, yes, that means I've raised you well. That means I gave you the confidence to choose and say you're going your own way and break off on your own path. And I think that really made him happy at that moment. And I think overall, in a lot of ways, that makes parents in general happy that day when our children come and go, Mom, Dad, I respect you, but I'm going to go do my own thing. I mean, that is a moment where we go, oh my gosh, whatever I did it right enough to give my child the confidence and the identity enough to choose their own path. So that was a big moment for me and for him, and it was a rite of passage. And again, my dad heard in my voice that I wasn't really asking him permission, because if I would have stuttered and said, well, I mean, I think it's what I want to do, he would have probably said, hell no. Right. Like he would have given me more resistance because I wasn't sure of myself, and made me say, I'm not asking permission. But the way he heard my voice, he heard I wasn't asking permission. He heard me saying, I'm going my own way. And I think that let him know, gave him a lot of sort of backup to say, hey, I've raised my son right, that I gave him that kind of confidence to be able to say that.
Yeah.
You know, and one cool thing is because, you know, taking out of the book, the way you were raised, your parents gave you, like you said, kind of some guidelines, some rules of how to kind of stay between the lines, you know, and they expected you to stay between the lines. And when you went outside, you know, you got busted for it, but whatever. And then as you got older, you say about when you turned 18, it's kind of a rite of passage, and they, you know, come more of an equal to it. With raising your own kids today, I mean, are you kind of following those same guidelines with them?
Generally, yeah. I mean, I don't, you know, I want to instill the same values that my parents, my mom and dad, tried to instill in me and my brothers. I go about it in a different way. Like my parents were corporal punishment. You know, their deal was, we're not going to ground you because time is your most valuable thing. Just bend your butt over and take the belt, you know?
Right.
But even then, I think I realized why and what they were trying to instill in me with the punishment. meaning I got my first butt whooping for answering to Matt instead of Matthew. Got my second one for saying I hate you to my brother. I got my third butt whooping for saying I can't start the lawnmower. And then my dad showed me, oh, you were just having trouble. I got my fourth for lying to my dad. Well, there's values instilled in those four things. Because if you take the antonym of those, what they were saying, like on a basic level, I was learning if you do any of those things, you lie, you say you hate, you say you can't, you don't answer to your name, you get pain. All right, in a very basic level. Bend over, take the belt. Well, the opposite of that is, oh, then you're telling me through this lesson that I'll have more pleasure in life if I answer to my name, if I love instead of hate, if I believe I'm having trouble instead of believing I can't, and if I tell the truth instead of lie. Four pretty damn good values to take into life. So that's what they were trying to prepare me for. Now with my children, I want to instill those same values. I just go about it differently than they did, with different forms of consequences than my parents had. My parents were from a generation where you didn't discuss as much as we discuss now. The answer was because I said so. And there's value to that answer. But Camilla and I have chosen to discuss more, to try and help our kids understand the consequences. And, discussing things can be a lot harder. It takes more time than just saying, hey, bend over and let's get it over with. But that's what we're trying to do. But I do want to instill the same values that my parents tried to instill in me. Just go about it in a different way.
And you do talk a lot about values in the book. You talk about values, you talk about humor, you talk about having a sense of humor and values, the values we have, bringing everyone together and always having a sense of humor in that. And I also noted somewhere you said, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that you've called yourself, I believe, an optimistic mystic. I do know in the book that you said your favorite Bible verse is Matthew 6:22. And when you think of that third eye, I believe, as you've called it, and when that comes to play into life, when is it that you think that intuition, that third eye, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but when does that come into play in your life? And could you tie that a little bit into your values and what you speak of in your book?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I haven't found a place where understanding the paradox of the third eye is not valuable. I wish I had it front of mind and heart with myself more often than I do. I have to remind myself to it because I get very judgmental on certain things that maybe is not my place to get judgmental on, or I think I'm right and the other person's wrong in places that maybe that's an arrogant way to think. And the third eye, I'm not saying we should not have judgment. Without judgment, we don't have identity. We should have discernment. We should be able to discriminate between ideas and say, I prefer this over that. I am for all that. You don't have identity without that. But the third eye, it breaks down the contradiction of things. Like we think of culture and technology as contradictions. We even think sometimes of heaven and hell as these great contradictions. We think of freedom and responsibility as contradictions. Well, the third eye reminds us that no, actually, they aren't contradictions like this. It's the truth is right there in the overlap, in that third eye, where that's not necessarily a shade of gray of compromise, as we like to call it. Oh, well, if I'm meeting you in the middle, then I'm compromising and I'm about nothing. No, it's not that. It's actually where the white light of all the colors live and all the truth lives. You can still have discernment in that, but it's understanding that what's true for you may be different than what's true for me. That similar experience we have, you may have taken and seen it and felt something differently than I did. Now, if I understand the way you saw it that's different than the way I saw it, doesn't mean that I am giving less credit to what I believe in, but it is saying, oh, I understand that both are true. I understand that the world is an and instead of a but. It's an and instead of an or world. And I think when we understand that, and it's hard because it's scary. We think we're going to be about nothing. We think it's all, we're going to compromise ourselves into a shade of gray and be about nothing and not have any real opinions on things. No, I don't think that's true. And if we can trust that, just realizing someone else may have a different position and trying to understand why and where they get it from, we can still hold on to our own.
Right.
But we can go a long way to evolving and getting along as people, just understanding that you may come from a different place than I did. You may see a similar situation differently than I did. You may have a difference of opinion than I do.
Right. And then just that thing that you talked about, just with your children, doing that with others, with adults, just talking about it and then bringing a little bit of humor into it, right?
Exactly.
Oh,
Yeah.
humor. Well, that's the old secret weapon, it seems like, in so many places. You know, sense of humor unties the knot in the contradictions. And the challenge with sense of humor is people think, oh, if we laugh at it, then we're not giving the crisis credit. No, you can laugh at it and actually give the crisis credit and actually now figure out how to get over the crisis, but still do it laughing instead of cussing and throwing and fighting about it. Sense of humor can really break the ice.
It does.
It's an underserved emotion. I like to say this: if we don't know how to respond to a situation, if we all made sense of humor the default emotion, we'd all get along a hell of a lot better.
I remember going to see the Dalai Lama at SMU in the basketball stadium, and I was in the nosebleed section, and but I could feel his heart, you know. And I remember him saying, you know, why don't we just start with what we can agree upon? And then he, I don't know, he went behind the curtain. He was gone. He was done. You know, he was leaving. Told everybody bye. He had on SMU cap, and he stuck his head out from behind the curtain, and he just laughed at everybody.
Right.
You know, he just laughed at everybody in the audience, and then he left. And I thought, that's love. I mean, that's somebody who understands the third eye. That's somebody who understands discernment. And I think that's what you're talking about. To me, it seems like.
Indeed. Yeah, I think we can't use enough of it. And especially today when we're so quick to condemn others that do not agree with maybe our politics or our church. And to the extent today where we more than disagree with them, we illegitimize them. We give them no validation. We actually like to act like they don't exist or they don't have the worth of existence if they disagree with us. And that's not only a disservice to them, but we may learn it the hard way. That's a disservice to ourselves.
Yeah.
So when you were in film school,
You keep going back to, you like talking
I
about
like
his
talking about
films.
this.
And that's
Well,
good. That's okay.
but when you were in
Go
film
ahead.
school, you had your class. You had we kind of described them, but they're kind of some goth, kids in there with you and everything. Kind of criticized the fact you went to see Die Hard, and it was one of the major movie that year. So Die Hard, Christmas movie or not a Christmas movie?
Hell yeah, it's a Christmas
See,
movie.
told
Go
you,
for it.
Christmas movie.
Yeah.
I didn't say it wasn't. But no, tell them what you really said about the movies, about films.
Oh, well, I said, because Michelle here drags me, and I always tell her she drags me to those artsy-fartsy films. She told me not to say artsy-fartsy, but I got to throw it in there. But I do like them, actually.
I go to all the films,
We
right? Yeah.
we see a lot of movies, not this year, but we go to movies 2 or 3 times a week. So
Oh, wow.
we're
we
here
used- we
working, and then
used
we
to.
go
We used
all
to.
the time. So now it's just renting them and watching on TV, but we still watch a lot of movies together.
So I go to 2 to 3 movies. We used to, but I also Matthew read 5 books a week.
Yeah.
I'm a reader. Yeah, 5.
She's
He can validate.
writing all the time, reading all the time.
I read
everything.
every book we have in our store. Every
And you
single
got
book.
5 kids?
Well,
our
they're
kids are older.
raised.
Okay.
Well, one's
Well, I got 2. She has 3. My youngest is 16, and
and she's with us, and she raises me half the time. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, I read fast, and that law school does it to you. You have to learn to read fast. So, be glad you didn't go to law school. You're
So
much
I'd rather
better.
play one of the movies.
oh yeah, definitely.
So-
So one thing though, also because. And I have to remind Michelle this too, because her book came out, and of course she's worried about the criticisms and things like that. And I tell her the higher you get in life, whether it's being a writer or an actor, whatever, the higher you get, the more criticisms you get. Now I tell her you just have to put it in the fuck it bucket and move on.
Right.
How do you deal with those people out there? I mean, because you get hit with it, pretty regular too. Just the criticisms from people. How do you deal with that?
Look, my favorite word in the world is unanimous. But in the same way that I was talking about chasing yet, if there was going to be a bumper sticker for, movie on the book, I know I'm never going to reach unanimous. I'm never going to reach where there's a full-on 100% coalition of everyone going, yes, we agree, we approve, that was good. Impossible. But I'm still chasing it.
Yep.
I know I'm never going to get it. Look, I about 15 years ago, I called my publicist and said, pull up every bad review that's been written on me in every single one of my movies. And it was a thick notebook. And I went away for a weekend with those bad reviews. And what I noticed is that, one, they were pretty damn funny. Two, I could tell if someone by the first sentence, maybe the snark of the first sentence, oh, this person had it in for me before they even saw the work I did. They were writing a bad review on me no matter what. They do not like me. So they were already going to write a bad review. This thing was written before they even went in. So forget them. And then I read a lot of bad reviews that were actually someone who watched the film and really deconstructed my performance, talk about what they didn't like about it, et cetera. And in the people that didn't have the snark, that were sitting there trying to give me constructive criticism and had opinions of what they didn't like about what I did and why, I learned some things and actually agreed with a lot of them and said, okay, I never thought of it like that. Yep, I see that choice I made and how it landed on you and why that didn't land well with you. So I learned some things. Some of them I just chose to disagree with, but many of them I said, I agree with that and I'm going to take that in my hip pocket going forward and performances in my future. But it's that Sammy Davis Jr. line. What has he said? I don't know what success is, but I know what failure is. And that's trying to please everybody.
That's true.
I always tell Michelle that you cannot please everybody. It's impossible.
Yeah, and that goes back to everything you guys were talking about and what your mom said, about you got to be you, and if you're trying to be Matthew that your mom taught you, if you're trying to be somebody you're not and you're trying to please everybody else, then that is where you're going to fall into that failure.
And remember this too, this is something I've learned as I've gotten older. Some things, it matters when they're put out into the world. Meaning, I put things out in the world that got hammered when they got put out in the world, but 6, 8, 10, 12 years later, sort of came around and people saw the truth of the beauty in it. So it was the wrong timing. Yeah. I've also had it other sides. Look at this Greenlights book tour, COVID, election year. I'm not going, geez, I don't know if this book's going to see the light of day. I don't know if anyone's going to, if it's going to get swamped by an election year and COVID and civil unrest. Well, shoot, it did the opposite.
Yeah, it's crazy.
All kinds of people went to it because they wanted some good news in the time of bad news. They wanted some solid stepping stones to see how to go forward in a time of distrust in the world and confusion about where to go. I didn't know if that was going to happen. I mean, there were many people that have a lot more knowledge about when to put a damn book out than I do that said, you are making a wrong move by trying to come out in the fall of 2020. Your book's going to get swarmed over. It's never going to see the light of day. They could have been right. Thankfully, they weren't.
Right. Well,
amazing.
And mine came out what day? Friday.
Yeah, last Friday.
Yeah, so,
there we go.
Yeah, came out Friday. And it's about connecting with people. And I wrote about it during COVID and how we connect with people. So much of it, that's why your book connected so much with me. It was just about how we course correct, how we connect with people, how we pivot, and how we do that. You said you want to talk about do you want to do the Longview thing, if he's willing to do it with us?
All right.
I don't know if you're going to want to do this, Matthew. You can tell us no if you don't want to do it.
So since both of you two are from Longview and you both have that East Texas twang, who read it best? So that
because I saw in your, I don't know which social media. I don't know if you guys, I don't have anybody do my social media really for me, but I am on there and it overwhelms me because I'm getting a little bit older. But on one of your social medias, you had people reading a lot of lines and trying to impersonate you. Now, I'm not going to try to impersonate you because I cannot do that. But since I'm from Longview and you're from Longview, I thought maybe we could read a little passage from your book. Now,
Go
you're going to be cold reading a little bit because, I mean, it's your book, but I'm going to tell you what page. Can we do that?
Okay. I
All
got
right.
it right here. Let me pull the book
Okay.
out.
All right. So if I can see, I'm going to turn to page
49.
49 is where we're going to read, and we're going to read about your treehouse.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll go first, okay?
Go for it.
Because they're going to want to hear you last, because, you know.
Yeah.
All right, so this is about Matthew's treehouse in Longview, Texas. 6 weeks later, I was done. My treehouse was 13 stories high. The 13th floor was over 100 feet above the ground. From there, I could see all the way down to downtown Longview, 15 miles away. For the next 2 weeks, I spent every day up there, above the rest of the world, where I hoisted up my brown bag lunch and daydreamed, swearing I could see the Earth's curve on the horizon. Now understanding where and why the city of Longview got its name.
Yeah.
It was the best summer of my life. Greenlight.
I got chills. That's true. And then September came, and I had to go back to school. Mom came back from Florida, and we soon moved into a neighborhood house on the other side of town. I never saw that treehouse again. I often wonder if it's still there today. I thought of that treehouse when I was making the movie Mud. See, my treehouse was those boys' boat in a tree. A secret, a mystery, a place of danger, wonder, and dreams. You know, if Mud had been released in 1979, my dad would have come to me and said, "Hey, buddy, there's this movie called Mud I saw. Man, we got to watch it together. Damn, it's a good one." Then I might have said to him, "Dad, there's this treehouse in the woods I built. I got to show it to you. Damn, it's a good one."
Yeah, that gave me chills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
good.
You also said in your book, and I didn't think I was going to ask this, but I just have to. You know, you said in your book that your dad would have been on the front row of your movies. You know, that there were other parts in your book about, you know, we'll go into about your mom, and you talk about your mom a lot in your book too, but that really, I wanted to read in your dedication. You said you always wanted to be a father. So I'm just going to read the dedication if I can find it really fast. I bet you could say it. To the only thing I ever knew I wanted to be, and family. So the only thing you ever knew you wanted to be was
Father.
father.
Only thing I ever knew I wanted to be. And I remember when it hit me. You know, I was raised on sirs and ma'ams and please and thank yous. And then when I met my dad's friends, you know, I'd shake them in the hand, shake their hand, look them in the eye and say, "Nice to meet you, sir," et cetera. And I understood that that was out of respect for my elders, one. But I remember when I was 8 years old, he'd introduced me to a couple of his friends. And we were at Oak Forest Country Club near the first tee box. And I remember looking up at them at 8 years old and shaking their hand. And as I was saying, "Nice to meet you, sir," and "Nice to meet you, sir," I remember it going through my head, oh, there's one common denominator that everybody I'm saying sir to has. And that's that they're all fathers. And so in my mind, I went, 8-year-old mind, I went, oh, so that's how you succeed in life. That's when you've made it. That's when you become a sir, when you become a father. So from that day on, I was like, I can't wait to be a father. That's the only thing I know I want to be, because that's when I'll be a sir.
I love that. Yeah. I dedicated my book to my kids. I'll read it. Nobody's asked me really who it was. And mine says, if I can find it in my book, dedication to the one bullied for singing sensitive songs, to the one ridiculed for wearing an eye patch, and to the one left out for digging for dinosaurs. And those are my 3 kids.
There you go.
The book has to do about being yourself and the being an empath in this world. You know, those emotions, and so
and you know, we got to give a little more credit to resistance. I think, you know, give a little more credit to the boy named Sue. Give a little more credit to the fact that being left out because you were digging for dinosaurs, or being laughed at because you wore the eye patch, toughens you up in a good way. not in a callous way, but makes you go, I got to fight for mine. I got to fight for me. It's, I mean, I talk about it in the title with Greenlights. If life is nothing but green lights, then what the hell's it all for?
Exactly.
Entertainment? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So you got to have red and yellows. You got to have times where you go, I feel lost. I got to figure my way out of this. I don't know who I am. I got to figure out who I am. I got a choice to make. Which one's the harder? Which one's the biggest risk? To keep doing what I'm doing or to choose another path? It shouldn't be consensus, unanimous all the time. We can chase unanimous. We can chase, getting along with everybody and having perfect justice, but we're not going to ever have it. And so it's good to be put on an island in our lives and to learn how to, especially as kids, I think, because then we can get out in the world where we know the world isn't fair and it does bruise and it bites. And it's got fangs. We got to learn to negotiate that and go, oh, it's not the end of the world when I run into a trouble or someone ridicules me for wearing a patch over my eye or for being the Betty Rice in my school who was the one gothic girl who everyone thought was a lesbian. I'm not sure she was or not. She was an outcast, but she owned it. Again, when I talk about it, she was not a dork. I liked her and I was Mr., student council, popular, et cetera. But boy, I liked Betty Rice because she was going her own way and she was an underdog. And I don't know where she is out there now, but I bet she's doing damn well because of dealing with the resistance and having to overcome it at that age. I wouldn't say, I'm not saying I'm for bullying. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that there's a thing with kids and all of us life that it's good to go through that resistance early on where we're forced to go, well, what am I about? Do I give a damn or do I have the courage to go, I'm going to wear 2 eye patches next time. How about that? You know what I mean? Whatever that is. I'm going to trump your gesture.
Yeah, it's exactly right. As you talk about it, face the obstacles. You talk about it's poetry in your book. You face the obstacles. And my kids did. The 3 of them. I asked my daughter one time. It's the one that went to UT. She's at Baylor now. She's the Jaworski Scholar. She's going to be mad at me saying that because she keeps it quiet. She doesn't want anybody to know. But at Baylor, and she's the one that was digging for dinosaurs. But none of my kids, they faced those obstacles. And that's exactly what you're talking about. So they didn't stay in that mode, but they were their own people. Mm-hmm. And I always said, Tanner, why didn't all the people at the private Christian school, in Dallas, why weren't you were pretty, you were this, you were that? Why were you kind of made fun of? I never really understood that. And she's like, oh, Mom, I was out there at recess every day digging for dinosaurs while they were all playing Barbies or whatever they were doing. She was doing her own thing. So yeah. I dig.
See, y'all just said that you're proud and honored, and that's a similar way. What I mean about when I was talking about earlier, we raise our kids in a certain structure, and when they break out of it, we're kind of like, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So when your daughter's going, I was still digging for dinosaurs. I'm sure as a mother, you were like, yes.
Yep.
Yeah, she was Tanner. Yeah. So okay, I have this thing. I'm not trying to take over here.
No, go for it. Go for it.
So here's the thing. You've had, if I'm counting right, and I'm not very good at math, it's not my thing. Reading, yes, maybe. Math, not so much. But Matthew, I think you've had 4 concussions at least. 3 from falling from trees. 1 from is it conga or bongos, whichever incident. And
it was congas, but bongos fits the meter better. Bongo naked fits the meter better than conga naked.
Okay, because we had a little argument, a little dispute over that last night. And then 1, I think, from the bull, from Rain of Fire. But 3 of those were on full moons. Okay, so full moons are about release. Okay, so you release things. On new moons, you bring in. On full moons, you release. So what do you think you were releasing on these times that you had these concussions? What do you think you were releasing?
Well, here's something else that happened with those. Guess where I cut myself open on 3 of those concussions and had to get stitches on 2 of them.
Where? Third eye.
Oh.
Right there.
Very interesting.
I've had stitches there 3 times.
Wow.
So what was I releasing? Look, here's what we all know this, and to some extent, civilization's a bitch. And on certain nights, those I'm chasing the mammal. You know, I'm chasing. I'm trying to get rid of the mendacities of life and go. Oh, you know, I was actually very high in the top of trees trying to get up and shake hands with that moon. And you know, what was I trying to release? Get rid of all the mendacities, get rid of all the bullshit, and just go, you know. And you know, because I've had to do that many times in my life, and have done it awkwardly in public places. But I've learned to go, no, you know what? You need to go shake the city off of you. As my buddy Rob Bendler's housekeeper used to say, oh, you boys been shaking the city off of you. I try to do better now to go, you know what? Go out to your brother's ranch and give yourself a week with no clock. Have whatever you want, whenever you want it, and go work it out. Don't, get off of having to get up at this day with these responsibilities. Just go out there, and if you want to sleep all day and stay up all night and chase the moon, go for that too. No rules, no walls, go. Now I've learned to say, go out there where it's safe, where you got enough room to do that. Now go out there, and I'll also put on a helmet and a chin strap too, and a mouth guard, because I'm not going, this could get bloody. And it has. But sometimes I just got to shake the city off of me.
Yeah.
Well,
I love that third eye thing.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that third eye, I always talk about discernment, and where we see truth and discernment, like you talked about, truth being different truths, but discernment. And then our third chakra, where we speak it. We listen, we listen to others, but then we speak our truth, and we feel heard, and how those are connected. That's really cool. I'm glad I asked that question, because that was really, I had no idea about it being right there.
Yeah.
Right there on that third eye. Yeah.
Yeah. So Michelle's put together this care pack for you that we're sending to you.
I like to give gifts.
Yeah, she does. So one is the T-shirt that says "All rise, all rise, all rise" from.
Yes.
So we're sending you that.
Do you have that picture, Matt? Do you want to show it, or do we not have it?
All rise, all rise, all rise.
Yeah.
I like it.
That's the UT. Some of the UT. I think the current ones right now. Yeah.
And these are actually bracelets we're sending you and your wife.
Those are Longhorn spirit animal bracelets.
Yeah. This is how we started, actually. Our whole thing was making bracelets. And then we got all these bumper stickers we're sending to you because we hear you love bumper stickers.
I do love bumper stickers.
Where the hell do you put these bumper stickers?
Well, I mean, I've got them on the back of my laptop. I've got them on my car. I've got them on the refrigerator. I've got them on the kids' laptops. I got them on dog bowls. I got them all over the place.
Nice.
I love a good bumper sticker, as I write about in the book,
Yeah.
Kind of, it's kind of one of the last innocent places of free speech these days. It's kind of, because it's a bumper sticker, you can't really, take someone down because of it, but it tells you a lot. You know who someone's religion, if they're a parent, where they kind of vote, all kinds of things from a bumper sticker.
Yeah.
So that's why I like them.
Yeah, they're dispersed, you guys, for those of you who are getting the book. They're all throughout the book. Well, not all of them, obviously, but a lot of the bumper stickers are in the book. And you are quite the poet, man. That you wrote from the age of, was it 8 or young? I mean, you started writing really young.
I started writing some poetry around 10.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
And
then
continue to. Hell, I didn't know if they were poems or not. And, sometimes they rhymed, sometimes they didn't. But they were honest as I could be.
Roger was saying that it seemed like it's, as you write, it's stream of consciousness to me, or that's the word I use, I guess. It's a lot of stream of consciousness, or at least when he was listening to the Audible. It seems like, at least when you read it, you read the book, it's just, it flows. It's your stream of consciousness as you think, right?
For me, it was easy to listen to because of that.
Okay, good. I mean, look, it took a lot of editing to make it feel like that. Because I'll say this, all these stories that you read in there, which a lot of people's favorite part is the stories, I've performed these stories before. I've told them over dinners and around campfires. So my thought going into the book was, well, if I record myself telling the best version of the story and I just put those words on the page, that will be the best version on the page. It was not. The written stories, the best version, was 30% shorter on average than the spoken word story.
Interesting.
So I had to search for the right word or the right sentence, or use the right slang to get you in the jive, in the feel of the way I was slinging the story from the hip. And hopefully I pulled that off to some extent, because, you know, as a performer, I can tell you the story about my mom and dad and the ketchup bottle and the 12-inch knife. And as I'm telling it to you, you see my eyes raised and you see me lighten up and you see the love and humanity coming from me. But if I just write the story down, mom and dad, mom pulled out a kitchen knife and drew it on him, and he grabbed a ketchup bottle and started to splatter her with ketchup. You don't get that. Your hand goes over your mouth. You go, oh my God, oh no, it's a horror story. Where, how do I write it in a way that you see it's a love story?
Right.
It's awkward, but it's a love story. And, you know, so finding that written word was different than the spoken word. But it was really fun to do. It was a really fun challenge to take up, to try and get across without having my voice or my intonations to go up to let you know when the punchline's coming. You don't have any of that in the written word. So how could I set that up? And that may be the ellipsis, that may be where to have a comma, where to have a hypothetical, where to have a parenthetical, where to have a bold print, where to just have a long run-on sentence that is just fun and gains momentum as you read it. So hopefully, as a writer, I pulled that off to a certain extent.
You did. It's a great book. And like I said, I read a lot, so I know.
Well, thank you.
She literally read it and is like, I'm going to email him and he's going to be on our show. Okay, awesome.
Green light. You gave us a green light. Thank you so much. And you say in your book, don't ever say it's unbelievable. I will just say, I really thank you for being on our show. I will tell everybody to get this book. Pretty much, it seems like everybody already has.
Yeah.
Because literally, Matthew, I was going around all over Dallas, and we did. We ordered your. There's also Greenlight T-shirts and hats, and we ordered them. But you know,
They're supposed to be here 2 days ago. But FedEx didn't actually
mail's
get it.
a little slow right now.
Hopefully
We
they're
understand
coming.
that.
They're coming.
No, we're not complaining. We're saying, you know, we get it because Soultopia is doing. It has the same thing going on right now. But we just really do. Thank you so much for being on. We really appreciate it.
Definitely so.
And hopefully everybody will run out. But I do have one quick question. I want to know, is anybody making movies right now? Because I really like them, besides Tom Cruise in that movie that's being made right now, because I'm hearing all about that. But no, seriously, it's a real question.
They are making movies. More of my peers are making movies than I thought they would be at this time. They're making movies. There's very strict protocols on sets. They're working in different bubbles of who can be on set when, and they seem to be succeeding at it. So many productions are still in production. You should be getting content. We're going to see what the future of the theater is. You know, are we going to have a future where you two can go out to the theater 3 nights a week again? I don't know.
Yeah,
You're going to want content. Where you're going to digest that content in the future, I'm not sure. Is it going to be at home like Warner Brothers just did with HBO Max, which they're simultaneously putting things out in the theater and HBO Max in your home? Right. Is that where it's going? I'm not sure, but our industry is measuring that right now.
Right. Well, it'll be interesting to see. And again, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate you. Everybody go get this great book, Greenlights.
Definitely.
Thank you.
And the audio. I'm
And-
telling you,
and
it's
the
worth the
audio.
audio just to listen and then go back and read the
And
book.
while you're at it, pick up my book, The Magic of Connection. Thank you, Matthew. And thank you, everybody, for joining our show tonight. SoulWhat, where we discuss, you guys, matters and issues that matter to our soul. And you guys get to think about, mull it over, and discuss things that matter to yours. Thanks for joining us.
Good night, guys.